Welcome to English Podcast.
I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, let's listen to the podcast between Emma and Mark about their hobbies.
Hi everyone, I am Mark. Welcome back to our show, Hobby Talk. We're here to talk about hobbies we love.
Hi everyone, I am Emma and I'm so excited to share some of our hobby stories. It's great how hobbies can make us happy.
Absolutely. I think hobbies show who we are and what we like. For me, I love fishing, learning Japanese, and building models. What about you, Emma?
I like painting and cooking, and recently I've been learning Spanish. Each one makes me happy in a different way. Let's start with your fishing stories, Mark. What do you like most about fishing?
Fishing. I love the calm feeling of being by the water. It's so peaceful to wait in the water for the fish to bite, but then there's a rush when the fish starts to bite. I remember once I caught a fish that was almost too big for my net. It was such an exciting moment, and I felt really proud.
I can imagine. It sounds fun and relaxing. And learning Japanese, that's so cool. What made you start with that?
It's funny. I've always liked Japanese culture, like the food and anime. One day I thought, why not learn the language? Now I'm hooked. I practice every day, even if it's just listening to a podcast. I also started using an app where I can talk to native speakers. I think it really helps me understand the culture better.
That's great. I'm sure it's hard, but also really rewarding. I started learning Spanish because of my love for cooking. I wanted to try authentic recipes and understand more about the culture.
That's a cool approach. So, is your Spanish like a gateway to your cooking passion?
Exactly. When I paint, I also listen to Spanish music or podcasts. It's a nice way to mix art and learning. Speaking of art, do you find building models similar in any way? Is it like art to you?
Totally. Building models is innovative too. It's all about focusing on the small details and seeing something take shape. It's a bit like painting, but with a bit of engineering. I also love that there are so many types of models to build. Cars, planes, even buildings. Each one teaches me something different, and I get better with each project.
I love that. Art takes so many forms. Does it help you relax, or is it more about the challenge?
It's both. It's relaxing because I can focus, but it's also a challenge to get every part right. What about your painting? Is it more for relaxing or expressing yourself?
Painting lets me bring out my feelings with colors, but it's also really calming. I love turning a blank canvas into something special. I remember painting a sunset recently, and it was such a peaceful experience. Each brushstroke felt like I was adding a piece of myself to the picture.
That sounds amazing, Emma. And to our listeners, we'd love to hear about your hobbies too. What do you love doing in your free time? Feel free to share a short story or even just a few words about it. Who knows, maybe your hobby will inspire someone else to try something new.
Yes, who knows? And it's nice that even if our hobbies are different, whether it's cooking, painting, or fishing, it's all about enjoying the moment and learning more about ourselves.
Well, that's all for today. We hope you liked our hobby chat. If you have a hobby you love, share it with us. We'd love to hear your stories.
Thanks for listening. Keep exploring your hobbies, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Wow, that was a great conversation between Emma and Mark, right, Lisa?
Absolutely, Eric. It was so interesting to hear about their hobbies and how they find happiness in them.
I loved how they explained their passions: fishing, cooking, painting. It really shows that hobbies are more than just activities. They're ways to express yourself.
I agree. And I think our listeners can learn a lot of good phrases about hobbies from this conversation. Plus, it's a fun way to practice English.
Agreed, Lisa.
So, Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is rewarding. Then we will continue with approach and to be hooked on. Then bring out. And the final one is speaking of something.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is rewarding.
Rewarding.
Now, let's see how this word is used in the podcasts.
That's great. I'm sure it's hard, but also really rewarding.
Rewarding is an adjective. We use it to describe an experience or activity that gives us satisfaction or makes us feel good.
So, rewarding means valuable or meaningful.
Exactly. For example, many people say that teaching is a rewarding job. It can be hard work, but when you see students learning and growing, it feels great and makes the effort worthwhile.
That's a great example, Eric. So could we also say, helping others is a rewarding experience?
Yes, Lisa. Helping others makes people feel good and proud of what they're doing. Let me share another example. Imagine you are volunteering at an animal shelter. Cleaning and feeding the animals can be tiring, but it feels rewarding when you see the animals happy and healthy.
I like that example. So, can we use rewarding in both formal and informal situations?
You can use rewarding in both formal and informal contexts. You could say, I find my work very rewarding in a job interview, or tell a friend, that hike was really rewarding.
Got it. Before we move on, listeners, can you think of an activity in your life that you find rewarding? Try using the words in a sentence and write them in the comment section. Okay, well, we hope today's episode was rewarding for you. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is to be hooked on.
To be hooked on.
Let's hear how this word is used in the podcast.
One day I thought, why not learn the language? Now I'm hooked.
Lisa, have you heard this phrase before?
Yes, I've definitely heard it. When someone says they're hooked on something, they mean they really like it and can't stop doing or thinking about it. It's like they're addicted.
That's right, Lisa. So when we say we are hooked on something, we don't always mean it in a bad way. For example, if I say, I'm hooked on that new TV series, it means I enjoy it so much that I can't stop watching it.
And it can be used for many things. For example, I could say, I'm hooked on chocolate, or my brother is hooked on playing the guitar. So, Eric, would you say hooked on is a formal or informal phrase?
I'd say it's more informal. You wouldn't use it in a business setting or a formal report, but it's perfect for conversations with friends, on social media, or even in casual writing.
Yes, and before we go, let's give a quick summary. If you're hooked on something, you really love it and spend a lot of time enjoying it. It's a fun way to express being obsessed or very interested in something.
Good summary, Lisa.
Okay, well, let's continue with the next word.
The next word is approach.
Approach.
Let's hear how Mark used approach in the podcast.
That's a cool approach. So your Spanish is like a gateway to your cooking passion?
The word approach is both a noun and a verb, but we'll explain its noun form today. Approach means a way or method of dealing with something or how you do something. For example, if you have a problem, the way you choose to solve it is your approach. Here's an example sentence. Her approach to learning English is to practice speaking every day. This means the way she learns English is to practice every day.
I have another example. The teacher's approach to teaching is fun and interesting. This means the teacher has a style that is fun and interesting.
We often use approach with the prepositions to and ing form with a verb or a just object. For example, a new approach to learning a language or my approach to the problem.
So, Eric, is approach a formal or informal word?
The word approach is neutral. You can use it in both formal and informal situations. It's common in work, school, and everyday conversations.
Remember, using the right approach can help you sound more natural when speaking English. So, think about your approach to learning new words.
Good point, Lisa.
Okay, well, shall we move on to the next word, Eric?
Let's do that. The next word is bring out.
Bring out.
First, let's hear how it is used in the podcast.
Painting lets me bring out my feelings with colors.
Bring out is a phrasal verb. It is super useful in everyday conversations. So, what does it mean? Bring out means to make something more noticeable or to show a particular quality.
You might say bring out when you talk about making a quality, skill, or feature more visible or clear. Eric, can you give us a simple example?
Sure. Let's say you're talking about someone's dress. You might say, that red dress really brings out her blue eyes. Here, bring out means the dress makes her blue eyes more noticeable.
Oh, I like that example. So, bring out helps us talk about making things stand out more. You could also use it when talking about someone's personality. For instance, spending time with friends brings out the best in him. This means being with friends makes his best qualities more obvious.
And the word works well in both casual and formal situations. You can use it when talking about colors, flavors, talents, or even emotions.
That's helpful to know. Is there any quick grammar tip for using bring out?
Yes, Lisa. We often use it with an object. For example, her new haircut brings out her smile. Here, her smile is the object.
That's simple to remember. So listeners, next time you want to talk about something that makes quality more obvious, try using bring out. Now, let's move on to our last word of today. What is the last word of today, Eric?
The last word today is speaking of something or somebody.
Speaking of something or somebody.
Before moving on, let's listen to how it is used in the podcast.
Speaking of art, do you find building models similar in any way?
Speaking of something or somebody is a really useful expression to know.
Oh yes, we use it a lot in daily conversation. But what does it mean, Eric?
Speaking of something or somebody is an idiom, and it is used to start talking about a new topic that is related to something you were talking about just before. It's a way to change softly the subject in a conversation.
Oh, I get it. It's a way to change the topic smoothly, but stay on a similar subject, right?
Exactly, Lisa. For example, if we're talking about our favorite foods, and I say, I love pizza, and then you respond with, speaking of food, did you try that new Italian restaurant? You see how it links the conversation about food to a related topic?
That's great. And it makes conversations feel more natural. Do we use this phrase only when talking casually with friends?
Good point, Lisa. The idiom is usually informal, so it's perfect for chatting with friends, family, or even coworkers in a relaxed setting. It's less common in formal writing or speech.
Got it. Could you give us another example, Eric?
Sure. Let's say you're talking about the weekend. You might say, I went hiking on Saturday. And I could reply, speaking of the weekend, are you free on Sunday? It's an easy way to connect different pieces of a conversation.
That makes sense. So, you want to add something to your conversation. That's related to what was just said.
Yes, like, speaking of movies, did you see the new superhero film?
Perfect. We hope our followers understand it better now. And speaking of learning, don't forget to tune in for our next episode for more useful English words.
Great use of the phrase.
Thank you, Eric. Well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English.
And stay tuned. Bye for now. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, Emma and Mark are talking about their daily routines. Let's listen to them.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Simple Chats in English. Today, we have a fun topic. We're talking about our daily routines. Hey, Mark, what do you usually do every day?
Hey, Emma, and hello, listeners. Great to be back. You know, my daily routine isn't anything too extraordinary, but it works for me. I start my day around 6:30 in the morning. I try to wake up early to feel productive. First, I stretch a bit and grab some coffee. How about you?
That sounds like a nice start, Mark. I'm not much of a morning person myself. Morning exercise is not my cup of tea. I usually wake up around 7:30 and check my phone for any important updates. Then it's breakfast time. I love making oatmeal with some fruits on top. It's simple, but I think it's the perfect way to start the day.
Ah, I see. Oatmeal is a good choice. I usually go for a simple breakfast too. Something like toast with peanut butter or scrambled eggs. After breakfast, I go for a jog if the weather's nice. It clears my mind before work. What about you, Emma? Do you do any exercise in the morning?
Honestly, I wish I did more exercise in the mornings. But I usually skip that part and get straight to work. I work from home, so by 9 o'clock I'm at my desk, checking emails and planning my tasks. My mornings are all about getting organized and diving into work. What's your work schedule like, Mark?
Mine's similar, though I commute to the office a few days a week, leaving by 8:30. But when I'm working from home, I do the same as you. I sit down with my laptop and start tackling my emails and to-do list. I think mornings are best for getting important things done, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the more I accomplish in the morning, the better the rest of the day feels. In the afternoons, I often get sleepy, so I take a short walk to refresh. Do you do anything to recharge in the afternoons?
I'm with you on that. Afternoons can be tough, especially after lunch. I grab tea around 3, and if time permits, do light stretching or listen to music to re-energize. It really helps me stay focused for the rest of the day.
That's a good idea, Mark. I might try the stretching thing. I think it would help me shake off the afternoon slump. After work, I make dinner and relax by watching TV or reading a book. How do you wind down in the evenings?
My evenings are pretty relaxed too. I cook dinner most nights. Sometimes pasta, sometimes something simple like a salad. Then I catch up on a series or read. Lately, I've been into mystery novels. They're a great way to end the day. I've also been trying to cut back on my screen time in the evenings.
Mystery novels sound like fun. I love ending my day with something calming, like some soft music, or even a quick yoga session. Anyway, it sounds like we both have routines that work well for us, even if they're a bit different.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about finding what fits your lifestyle, right? And I think it's great for our listeners to hear different ways people manage their days. Maybe they'll find some ideas for their own routines.
Definitely. All right, everyone. We'd love to hear about your daily routines. Feel free to share them with us. Maybe we'll even mention some of them in our next episode.
Sounds like a plan, Emma. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, whether you start your day with a run, a coffee, or just a few extra minutes in bed, make it your own. Until next time.
Bye for now.
Hey Lisa, what did you think about Emma and Mark's daily routines?
I thought it was fantastic. Their routines are different, yet really easy to understand and follow. I especially liked how Mark mentioned trying to cut back on screen time, something we could all work on.
Absolutely. It's those little changes that make a big difference. I hope our listeners got some inspiration for their own routines.
Me too. Let's see what they share with us next time. So, Eric, what are the words today?
The first word today is extraordinary. Then we will continue with to tackle and to accomplish. Then cut back on. And the final one is it's not my cup of tea.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Now, let's see how this word is used in the podcast.
You know, my daily routine isn't anything too extraordinary, but it works for me.
The word extraordinary is an adjective. It means something that is very unusual or special in a way that is better than usual. For example, if a movie is extraordinary, it means it's much better than a normal movie.
Yes. It's like saying, wow, this is not just good, it's really special.
Yes, Lisa. Here's an example sentence. The singer gave an extraordinary performance at the concert. This means the singer's performance was not just good, but very special and impressive.
And here's another example. The view from the mountain was extraordinary. This means the view was amazing, much better than normal. So, Eric, do people use this word in both speaking and writing?
Yes, extraordinary is used in both speaking and writing. It's neutral in formality, so you can use it in everyday conversations or in formal writing. For example, you might hear it in a casual talk about a fun event or read it in a book describing a special moment.
Great. That means our learners can use it in lots of situations to sound natural.
Exactly. And it's a word that helps make your English sound more expressive and interesting.
Okay, well, I think now our followers understand the word extraordinary better. Now, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is to tackle.
To tackle.
Let's listen to how it is used in the podcast.
I sit down with my laptop and start tackling my emails.
So, to tackle is a verb that means to try to deal with a difficult problem or situation. For example, we need to tackle the homework before dinner. This means we need to start working on the homework and try to finish it before dinner.
That's right, Eric. You can also use to tackle when talking about problems at work or school. For example, they are trying to tackle the pollution problems. This means they are working on solving or managing the problem of pollution.
Let's talk about how to tackle is used. We often use it with problems, tasks, or challenges. It's followed by a noun, like to tackle an issue or to tackle a project.
That's helpful. Can we say tackle with?
No, we don't use with after tackle. We simply say tackle the task or tackle the problem, not tackle with.
Is it formal or informal, Eric?
To tackle is often used in both casual and formal situations. You can say, the company is tackling new challenges this year at work, or I'll tackle this project after lunch in a more relaxed setting.
Great. Now, think of something you need to tackle this week. Maybe studying, cooking a new dish, or solving a problem at work.
Remember, to tackle is perfect when you handle a task or try to solve a problem.
Good summary, Eric. Okay, well, that's it for the word to tackle. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is to accomplish.
To accomplish.
Let's hear how Emma used it in the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the more I accomplish in the morning, the better the rest of the day feels.
To accomplish something means to successfully complete or achieve it. For example, if you finish a project at work, you can say, I accomplished my task.
That's a great word, Eric. So, if someone studies hard and passes their English exam, they could say, I accomplished my goal of passing the exam, right?
Exactly. Accomplish is a verb, and we usually use it to talk about reaching a goal or finishing a task. It's a little formal.
I see. So, would it sound natural to say, I accomplished cleaning my room? Or is there a better way to use it?
Good question, Lisa. I finished cleaning my room would sound more natural. The word accomplished is usually used for larger achievements. It sounds more natural to say, I accomplished my goal of cleaning and organizing my entire house. Or, I accomplished an important project at work.
Got it. So if I spend a lot of time learning to play the piano and finally I'm able to play a song, I could say, I accomplished learning my first song on the piano.
Yes, Lisa, that's way you use it properly.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you tell us how we can use it in different sentences?
Of course, here are a few examples. She worked hard for months and finally accomplished her dream of writing a book. With practice, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to.
I like that last example. It's very motivational.
Yes, it is. Remember, accomplish is all about successfully completing something significant. So, when you reach an important goal, you can say, I accomplished it.
That's such a helpful tip, Eric. Okay, well, shall we move on to the next word?
Let's do that. The next word is cut back on.
Cut back on.
Now, let's see how this word is used in the podcast.
I've also been trying to cut back on my screen time in the evenings.
Cut back on is a phrasal verb. It means to reduce the amount of something, especially something you use or do regularly.
Oh, I see. For example, people might want to cut back on sugar if they want to eat healthier, right?
Exactly. Here's an example. John decided to cut back on spending money on clothes to save for a vacation. This means John will buy fewer clothes so he can save money for his trip.
And here's another one. I need to cut back on watching TV and focus more on studying. This means the person wants to spend less time watching TV and study more.
Great examples, Lisa.
Eric, is this word formal or informal?
Cut back on is neutral. You can use it in both formal and informal settings, like talking to a friend or in a meeting.
That's really useful to know. It sounds like a helpful phrase for everyday life.
It really is. So remember, if you need to reduce how much of something you use or do, you can say, cut back on.
Okay, well, I think now our listeners understand the phrase, cut back on, better. Now, let's move on to our last word of today.
Okay, Lisa, the last word of today is, it's not my cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea.
Before moving on, let's hear how it is used.
I'm not much of a morning person myself. Morning exercise is not my cup of tea.
So, what does it's not my cup of tea mean? Well, it is an idiom. When someone says this, they mean that something is not to their liking or it's not something they enjoy.
That's right. For example, if someone doesn't enjoy watching horror movies, they might say, horror movies are not my cup of tea. It's a polite way of expressing that you don't like or prefer something.
Yes, and this idiom is quite common in everyday English. It's useful for talking about activities, foods, music, or any kind of preference. It's informal, but friendly.
Exactly, Eric. How about another example? Let's say someone asks if you like going hiking. If you don't, you could say, hiking is not my cup of tea, but I love going to the beach. This way, you show what you don't enjoy while offering an alternative.
Good example. Now, a quick grammar note. This phrase is usually used in the negative form. People don't say, it is my cup of tea to show preference. Instead, if you like something, you might just say, I like it, or I enjoy it.
That's a helpful tip, Eric. And here's another. When you use this phrase, it's polite and gentle. It doesn't sound rude or too strong. So if someone invites you to a rock concert and you're not a fan, you can say, thanks, but rock music isn't really my cup of tea.
Perfect. So, listeners, remember that it's not my cup of tea is a great way to express dislikes politely. Practice it with things you know you don't enjoy.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English
And stay tuned. Bye for now.